Everybody to the City of Joliet pre-council meeting here at the City of Joliet Council Chambers. Today is Monday, March 3rd, 2025 at 5:30. If you notice, a lot of people are off work today. I think everybody knows why. It's Kazimierz Pulaski Day. So it's celebrated the first Monday of March here in Illinois, so I just like to celebrate today. Kazimierz Pulaski was a Revolutionary War cavalry officer who was born in Poland. So congratulations to him, and we honor him. We have the Honorable Mayor Terry Darcy presiding this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll begin with roll call. Mayor Darcy.
Here.
Councilman Cardenas.
Here.
Councilman Clement.
Here.
Councilman Guerrero.
Here.
Councilman Hug.
Here.
Councilwoman Ibarra.
Here.
Councilman Mudrin.
Here.
Councilwoman Quillman.
Here.
Councilwoman Reardon.
Here.
First is a presentation on the National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System, presented by Dan Bounds with Baxter and Woodman Consulting Engineers.
Good evening. The city is required to have a NPDES permit, a National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System permit, because we are an MS4 community, and MS4 stands for Municipal Separate Storm Sewer System. So one of the requirements of that permit is that we do public outreach, and you probably remember on an annual basis here, we have our consultant, Baxter and Woodman, Dan Bounds, who helps us out with our permit, come and give a brief presentation, kind of telling good housekeeping items and things the public can look for if they see something that they could consider to be a pollutant entering the river and stream system in the area. So I'll turn it over to Dan. He's got a brief presentation, and then we can take any questions you may have after this.
Thank you for the introduction, Greg. Hello, thanks for having me. Like Greg said, some annual information is required by Illinois EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, each year for your benefit and for residents as well. So the city is required to implement best management practices to prevent pollutant discharges into our local water resources. The city has a vast amount of local water resources and a large storm drain system that drains into that. So we do our best to prevent pollutants from entering that system. The city complies with all of the permit requirements from Illinois EPA. In fact, Illinois EPA staff visited the city on January 29th, did a review of the program, the paperwork involved with the program and the reports, and then visited 2 of your public facilities as well. And that review of net audit went very well. So speaking of documentation, the program really has 3 major components or documents for the public access and public review. The first is the notice of intent, or the program requirements, how the what requirements the city is going to implement for the program. The second is the stormwater management plan that gets into details on which department implements which requirements, who to contact for certain parts of the program. And then each year due June 1st is an annual report to Illinois EPA on how it's going. How is the program being implemented, what activities have happened, and all of those documents are on the city's stormwater webpage, which is shown on the screen, accessible through the Public Works website. The program has 6 main components listed on the screen here. First is public education and outreach on stormwater impacts. The second is public involvement and participation, which requires this presentation each year today. The illicit discharge and detection and elimination program, looking through your system for improper connections or illegal discharges or things like that to the system. And then the construction site and post-construction site control, which includes requirements for doing smart development to protect water quality, making sure disturbed ground and during construction sites are not creating runoff or water quality issues. And then home to public works, the last bullet, pollution prevention and good housekeeping, which I'll cover a little bit more on a different slide. Each of these program areas has best management practices to protect our local waters from stormwater pollutants, which are developed and implemented. There's also a water quality monitoring component of the permit requirements. The city is required to perform water quality monitoring to test the effectiveness of these programs and these activities. Several different ways that can be done, but the way that the city has decided to do that is through watershed group participation, regional cooperation through watershed groups. The Lower DePage Watershed Coalition and the Lower Des Plaines Watershed Work Group are two groups that the city actively participates within, provides resources for this monitoring. All of their data, studies, and information are available on their individual websites as shown on the screen. Best management practices for municipal staff is something I'm pretty passionate about, and I get involved with training staff here at the city. This is making sure that city staff know the proper ways to do their job to protect water quality, taking care of our fleets, building maintenance, the stormwater system, our roads, our parking lots, and all of the materials, wastes, and other things that could be handled improperly, making sure they are being taken care of properly. Contractors that the city employs also have to be trained to do their jobs in a way that's protective of water quality, just like city staff have to. So if the public has a question or concern about the stormwater quality program, or sees something that might indicate a pollutant discharge or water quality issue within city, Public Works Department is the place to contact. That phone number is 815-724-4200, and contact information is available through the city's Public Works website as well. So this update was short because the city's program hasn't changed over the past year, and the new permit from Illinois EPA has not been issued yet. So there's really been no changes or updates to the program. We are expecting the permit this year at some point, so there might be some new requirements that might take some additional resources from the city to implement. And that is the update for this year. I'm happy to take any questions about the program.
I have a question out of curiosity. Do they monitor salt? Like in the winter when we put salt, that the salt that goes into the stormwater and into the...
Yes, yeah, so road salting during the winter time, that any residual salt left behind is going to go into our local storm drains and into our local waters, right? So that's sodium chloride once it dissolves, and the chloride component is one of the pollutants that the state is focusing on regionally. In this area, we don't see the type of chloride impairments as maybe closer to the city of Chicago, where impervious surfaces are denser, a lot more salt is going down, but there is monitoring that does happen for chloride impairments in the area.
And we're good right now?
Looking better than others.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead.
The DuPage River was one of the areas that water is being checked at. I know a dam was removed this past year by Shorewood. I don't know where we are doing our samples, and would this make any difference one way or the other on the quality of the water?
I believe monitoring does take place upstream and downstream of the dams as part of a regional monitoring network. So that dam removal would theoretically improve dissolved oxygen impairments in the area. So hopefully over time, the monitoring results in those areas would reflect that change and improvement.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Thank you.
All right, thank you for having me.
Thank you.
We had to be here anyways.
Okay. Next is the non-revenue water reduction program update, presented by Allison Swisher, Director of Public Utilities.
All right, thank you, Mayor and Council. So tonight, myself and Will Jernigan with Kavanaugh is going to be here tonight to provide an update on our non-revenue water reduction program. So I'm just going to start briefly with just a little bit of background on why we are reducing and why it's important to reduce non-revenue water. And then I'll turn it over to Will, who will talk about the work we've completed to date, the results of our water year 2024 audit, and then the next steps in our 2025 program of work. So this need to reduce non-revenue water all started back in 2021 with the decision to select Lake Michigan water as the city's new water source. In order to receive Lake Michigan water, we need a allocation permit from the Illinois Department of Natural Resources. Illinois has a certain amount of water that it's allowed to divert from Lake Michigan, so it's fairly important that that water is utilized responsibly and for the right reasons. And obviously, water leaking out of pipes and into the ground is not a good use of Lake Michigan water. So for that reason, the state has set a limit of 10% non-revenue water, and that's a condition of the city's permit that we reduce non-revenue water to less than 10% by the time we take Lake Michigan water, which is in 2030. So since we currently are not meeting that 10% amount, we were required by the state to prepare and implement a water system improvement plan, and we started doing that in 2022. Over the course of those 2 years, we replaced water mains and started a program of replacing water meters, but did not see a significant decrease in our non-revenue water. And for that reason, we wanted to make sure that we were leaving no stone unturned and really having experts work with us on making sure we were implementing the program correctly. So we issued an RFQ in 2024 to seek a consultant to help us manage our water reduction program, and we ultimately selected Kavanaugh, and they are a leader, really truly are a leader in North America for this type of work. They are the authors of the American Water Works Association manual and software for non-revenue water management, and they provide assistance like this across the entire country. So with that, I will turn it over to Will Jernigan to discuss what non-revenue water is and what the city is doing about it.
Thank you, Allison. Good evening. So we'll start with just the basic concepts that will inform the discussion. Non-revenue water can occur 3 ways. The real losses is the way that we typically think about it. It's water that's leaking from pipes. It can also occur in something called apparent losses. We think of these as paper losses. It's water that gets to a customer or a user but doesn't either get fully measured or fully paid for. And so a meter not catching everything going through it is a good example of that, and that's the typical example of paper losses. But they do show up as a loss on your balance sheet, so it's important to be able to identify them separate from leaks. And then the third category is operational uses. Every water utility has these. You have to fight fires, you have to flush your hydrants, and so it's sort of the cost of doing business of just running a water system. All of these are categories that are important to discern, because when you're thinking about if we want to reduce our total non-revenue water, we need a game plan to attack each of these 3 types. So what I'm going to do is essentially 3 parts of this presentation. One is talk about activities to date, and then I'm going to talk about the numbers, and then I'm going to talk about what is going to be happening in 2025. So what do we do next? So the first part is the activities to date, and we'll look back about 6 years. That's roughly the window of time that the city's been doing the annual AWWA water audit. And each year, the city has been employing an annual leak detection survey. You probably are familiar with this. It's where crews go out with equipment, listening equipment such as microphones, and they attach it to the water system and they listen for leaks. And so what they're trying to do is to discover leaks that are not surfacing. And so this is an annual survey of the entire system. It is a recommended practice from AWWA, so it's a good thing. The city is also doing meter testing each year on critical meters, which include your supply meters, your export meters that you sell to neighboring systems, and to your large customer meters. So those are tested every year. That's also a best practice from AWWA. So that's been happening for the last 6 years. In the last couple of years, there's a formal capital program that's a water system improvements plan. You may have heard it referred to, that the city put in place from 2022 to 2030, targeting certain water mains to be replaced and certain water meters, customer meters, to be replaced. So that started a couple years ago, and since then about 10% of the water mains in the system have been replaced. And that's, again, 2 to 3 years into a longer term program up to 2030. Out of the customer meters, roughly a fifth of your customer meters have been replaced. You have about 50,000 total customer meters, so around 10,000 of those have been replaced in the past couple of years. And then in the last, this past year, as the audit was put together, the city instituted something kind of known as a formal validation process. It really is just doing enough detailed analysis that you know that you're attacking all of the right parts of the problem. And this is a recommended practice from AWWA. One of the main strategies coming out of that the city has established in the last 2 years is the concept of zones. And the analogy I like to think about here is if we're looking for leakage, if we're looking for leaks all over the system, think about it like looking for needles in a haystack. And so if the whole system is a big haystack, if we can divide it up into a series of smaller haystacks, it makes it easier to find the needles. And so that's the idea that is at play here. So the city has established measurement into these 6 different zones, and we essentially have a big haystack spread out or separated into 6 smaller haystacks. And where that can be, there's 2 specific ways that can be helpful. One is when we're trying to lower non-revenue water across the system from where we are now to where we want to be by 2030, we don't want to just shotgun approach. We want to know where is it worse and where is it better. And so separating it into these haystacks allows us to do that. And so as we set our target for which parts of the city need more attention than others, the data, the flow information coming from these zones helps us to clearly see we've got a couple of zones that are actually our highest priorities. And so that allows us to be focused in our efforts and what we're looking forward to do in 2025. And so what that information points us to is the red dashed area is what we're calling the focus area for 2025. It's where we're going to lean in and be applying, I would say, most of our intentionality and our efforts in 2025. It also happens to be, this is a visual of where all of your oldest water lines are. So hopefully that's intuitive, that makes sense, that you're experiencing the greatest amount of loss where your oldest pipes are. So that happens to align with where you've already got a plan to replace most of the water mains. And those specifically are 1970 or older, and those are the most problematic. But that's a capital program. It's going to take you until 2030 to get through all those water main replacements. And so this approach here is the things that are happening in the meantime, in parallel with that. Continuing to look for leakage in the concentrated area in the center. So the next bit, we're going to take a look at the numbers. We're going to see where we are today, and then we're going to turn our attention to what's going to happen in the coming year. Where is the focus going to be? So the first visual we'll look at get oriented to the colors. The top line in blue is for the last 6 years the amount of water supplied into the system from your sources. The green line is the amount of water, let's just call it, that you've sold to your customers in total each year. And the red line is your non-revenue water, or mathematically just the difference between the two. And so the trend overall is downward, and you can see all 3 of these lines. And so specifically if we're looking at non-revenue water, and by the way, the units that we're speaking in terms of here is gallons per minute. And we do that to think of an ongoing flow rate. So 6 years ago, your non-revenue water was around 4,000. And as of your most recent audit, your non-revenue water is down to 3,000. So that is a reduction over a 6-year trend of 4,000 to 3,000, or 1,000 reduction. Interestingly, during this same window of time, you've had a customer-side conservation program, and you probably are familiar with the messaging where you're asking your customers to be more efficient with their use of water, and that's conservation. And that program has actually been successful. You are selling less water than you were 6 years ago, even though you have actually more customers. And that is a positive trend because it is an example of being a steward of the water resource, and that is what you want to be. That's what you want to do. So that's a success story there. So what has happened in this same period of time is because you are reducing your non-revenue water, and you are actually reducing the amount of water you're selling or your customers are using, then you don't have to supply as much water into the system. And so that blue line also has gone down during this period. So what happens when we think of this in terms of the percentage, which is the way that you are required to report it to the state? What we see is a story that doesn't quite track the same way. And so if we look at our percentage from 6 years ago, you were at 4,000 in terms of your non-revenue water. Relative to how much you supplied that year, it was 35% of your supply for the year. Last year, you were down to 3,000, but that then has to be divided by the most recent year's supply, or the blue number for the blue line for that year. And so it reduces to 29%. So when you look at the 35 to 29, it doesn't seem as compelling as reducing from 4,000 down to 3,000. Really, that's a quarter. You've reduced a quarter of your total non-revenue water. But expressed in percentage, it doesn't really depict the progress that you've made. And so for this reason, the American Water Works Association, which is the authoritative reference for best practices around these issues, has actually come out a few years ago officially recommending against using percentage as the way that you measure your performance in water systems, mainly because it penalizes you for conservation. The better job you do of getting your customers to be more efficient with their water, the harder it is. That actually pushes your percent non-revenue water up because your overall supply is going down. So it's just a moving target. I have a colleague that likes to say it's the only performance indicator that doesn't indicate performance. It's not the best measure. And so they've studied and they've got other measures that they recommend. Part of the program of work for 2025 is going to be to have this discussion with IDNR and to carry this forward, because this really is where the industry at large is headed, moving away from tracking how we're doing in terms of percentage. And so that's going to be part of the discussion with IDNR as we move forward, all the while continuing to reduce our non-revenue water, but we want to be using measures that truly show this improvement that's being made. So where we are today, before we specifically look ahead to 2025, the non-revenue water trend is decreasing from 4,000 down to 3,000. To meet the 2030 objective, we're going to want to accelerate that. So we want to continue the progress, but also pick up the pace. The strategy to do that will be to take the existing 6 zones or haystacks and to enhance how we're currently operating them, and we're going to concentrate our areas into that red dash center of the system. We are going to continue aggressive water main and water meter replacement programs. So our last segment here in the presentation is just to give a little bit more detail on specifically this year, what are we going to lean in on. And I'll just start by saying it's going to be a very aggressive year. There's going to be a lot of different activities happening at the same time. So sort of an all hands on deck, no stone unturned, whatever metaphor or analogy you prefer there, but that's going to be the spirit of it. So continuing to do the audit and the analysis, knowing what's happening in each of your 6 zones every month, using that information to guide our activities, testing meters, enhancing how we're having that data flow in every month. So we want city staff to be armed with information in a timely manner, as real time as possible. So we don't have to wait until the end of the year and the annual audit to know how are we doing in different parts of the system. Going into the field to make sure that we're validating any assumptions that may be made. An example would be if we have a interconnect with a neighboring system and we assume things about the plumbing, or we assume certain valves are on or off, to go to the field and make sure that we're leaving no stone unturned and that all assumptions are proven out. We will be doing a focused blitz of leak detection in the center part of the system. Just a reminder, that's the red dashed area, and the reason that's designed around the red area is because that's where the data says your losses are the highest. So we're going to follow the data and let the data guide us on where we want to concentrate. Operationally, that's what's going on. From a capital perspective, continue doing what you've been doing, which is an aggressive water mains and water meter replacement program. And from our perspective, this is the right things to be doing. Continue doing that while you're enhancing operationally what's going on. We are going to plan to take the 6 haystacks and even subdivide a couple of those, because if you can get them to even smaller zones, it just makes it so where you can more quickly discover new leaks that are coming up. The faster you can get to them, the shorter they run, the less water that you lose. That's the ultimate strategy. Here is a visual of where the water main replacements are scheduled to occur in 2025. You can see that's the river running through the center there. So this is, again, in that concentrated center area of town, the focus area. And to summarize, the big takeaways, our non-revenue water for the last 6 years has been showing good reduction from 4,000 gallons per minute down to 3,000. That's our trend. So that's good. Our strategy from here is to accelerate it. We want to think about things that are going to help us pour on the coals. But reduction probably won't be nice and linear. So if you track it from here all the way to 2030, it might not be a nice clean line. But the strategy is going to drive the downward trend as we go towards 2030. Ultimately, continue replacing mains, continue replacing meters, and operationally, we're going to be blitzing the center area in the red dashed area that I mentioned, because that's where the data is pointing us to go. This is something, I'll just finish with this. There is a core team of staff, and then the Kavanaugh team, as serving in the capacity of program manager, are going to be meeting regularly to make sure that the multiple initiatives that are on the plate for 2025 are staying on track, because there's a lot to get done. It's going to be an aggressive program. And I think we'll open for questions.
Mayor. So since this is a relatively new evaluation for this year, 2025, are we already going to be focusing the new meter replacement, the 10,000 that we'll be doing this year, in that red dotted area, or are we going to have to kind of reevaluate that just because we hadn't really had this evaluation completed yet?
Yeah, it's a fair question. The red dotted area is really driven by leakage data.
Okay.
And so that's where the leak detection efforts are really going to be concentrated. We haven't seen a reason to vary from your strategy on which of the meters you're replacing.
Okay.
Because those are more targeted of certain ages and certain types.
Okay.
And so that analysis that was already done, we feel like that stands.
Okay.
And so
Thank you.
continuing to do that.
Sure.
I know when we met last, is there a way to, and I think you answered it or not, but to know what percentage is coming, or are losses from those 3 different sources, right? Whether it's fire hydrant, meters, and or leaky pipes?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's when you do the audit, that's pretty much step 1, is to break it into the 3 categories. And so roughly speaking, your breakdown for the most recent audit year was the operational stuff is less than 1%. The apparent losses is a few percentage points, and then the real losses is the bulk of it. Most of it is leakage.
Question? How about the on-billed authorized use? Do you have a guesstimate? Is that of any size?
That's the category that's less than 1%.
Less than 1%.
Yeah.
Sorry, I missed that.
It's a near zero number, and we'll even have it's fairly low-hanging fruit to make sure that all those things are fully quantified, and even potentially billed at a nominal rate, so that they're not even kind of counting against you in the calculus, if you will. But again, it's a very small number to begin with.
Thank you.
Is it fair to say that no matter how much we replace now, the pipes that are leaking on the outside of the, let's say that red dot area, are going to have more pressure and could leak more, even though we've replaced the red dot area? The other areas are going to get more pressure, therefore maybe leak more. So
Yeah.
it may seem hard to stop that percentage until we kind of quantify everything. And
Yeah. What I would share back is, you're right. When you plug a leak, think of a the dam and you're plugging holes in the dam, when you plug one leak, in theory, the pressure ticks up. And that's the same as if you had a major industry leave and then you no longer have a big user, your pressure would tick up because usage draws pressure down. What is powerful about these haystacks is that you're able to see each month, use the data each month to see if we observe an increase and if we see new leakages popping up in the West Haystack or in the Fairmont zone or so-and-so. And then use that to respond within days or weeks rather than a year goes by and we're getting around in our annual survey, but it may be up to 12 months before we get back to a certain spot. So the zone is your weapon to fight against that particular issue.
Thank you.
Mayor?
Yep.
Yeah, I have all the confidence. Thanks for your presentation. I have all the confidence in what you're doing here. Can you tell the public or people that are watching at home your background and some other places that you worked and your success stories?
Absolutely.
Yeah, thanks.
Absolutely. Yeah, so this is something that we specialize in, and I personally have been in this particular field for about 20 years, specifically in water loss management. And we've worked with over 1,500 water utilities across North America, all the way from small to large. Last year we did a program with Southern Nevada Water Authority and the Las Vegas Valley Water District and a number of their providers in the area, similar to this. Specifically, they are trying to get their water loss as low as possible for similar reasons. It's related to their supply. And so it's really, there are certain elements that are universal principles that apply across all water utilities, and there are certain elements that need to be customized. And so that's usually what we, in our experience, will take the first principles, and they always apply, but then we need to figure out how is this going to work best in, for example, your application. The way that you operate your 6 zones needs to flow well with your current staffing setup and the current equipment that you've got out there. Those are things that are that we may not pick up, and it may not be the right fit in another utility. So that's what we've found to be the most to lead to the systems that have the most reduction, is they are adopting both the practice and the equipment, if they're outsourcing work or if they're internalizing it with their own labor staff, et cetera, making those decisions in a way that it's going to stay, and it's not just, okay, we've got attention to it now, but then everybody gets busy and it loses focus. So did that answer your question?
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great. Yep.
Thank you.
All right.
All good. Thanks.
All right. Thank you very much.
Next is citizens to be heard on agenda items. Is there anyone who would like to speak under citizens to be heard on agenda items? Anyone? Okay, seeing none. Next, we will have the city manager review tomorrow night's actionable items.
Tomorrow we'll have an appointment to the Joliet Public Library Board. Council committee reports will come from Public Assets, Public Safety, and Public Service. On the consent agenda, Council Memo 15725, award a professional services agreement for the 2025 sanitary sewer investigations program to RJN Group, Inc. in the amount of $539,650. This will address, it's an annual contract that addresses overflow and basement flooding. This is the organization that will prepare the plans to do the work. Council Memo 15825, award a professional services agreement for the 2025 water loss control technical assistance program to Kavanaugh Associates in the amount of $511,140. That's the presentation that you were just given. Council Memo 15925, award a professional services agreement for water treatment residual rule compliance assistance to Duffield Consulting Engineers in the amount of $63,874. This is a new IPA rule that, regarding disposal of radium in water that we're required to do also on an annual basis. Council Memo 16025, award a professional services agreement for the Route 66 Park at Broadway Street Greenway Improvements Survey and Design Phase to Geotech Engineering in the amount of $32,500. So this will be ADA improvements to that area and better circulation around that area where we have Route 66 and the Rich and Creamy and all of that. So that's where the money will go. Council Memo 16125, purchase and installation of 17 windows for Fire Station 1 from Dutchman Contracting Corporation in the amount of $32,000. This expense was included in the 2025 budget that this council approved. Council Memo 16225, purchase and installation of flooring for Fire Station 9 from Integrity Concrete Coatings in the amount of $30,212. This item was also budgeted in 2025. Council Memo 16325, Advanced Traffic Management System Phase B, Network Switch Materials Purchase, Order Number 1 to Heartland Business Systems in the amount of $79,430.81. Council Memo 16425, change order number 1 for the Broadway Center and Western Water Main Improvement Project to PT Farrow Construction for adjustment of project completion dates. So there's nothing monetary changing here. We just were, IDOT was delayed in getting a permit to us, so we just have to extend the dates to be able to do the work. Council Memo 16525, change order number 2 for the Parkview North Water Main Improvement Project to PT Farrow Construction Company for a decreased amount of $370,112.94. Moving on to agenda items, Council Memo 16725, award of contract for the Westmere Valve Bolts Replacement Project to Stipp Brothers Excavating, Inc. in the amount of $1,139,875. So I know there was some questions, I think, Chairman Hug, that came up in public service that we wanted legal to address. I think this would be an appropriate time to ask those questions and workshop it here now.
All right. What we have, Todd, is it's being grieved by the union as their work, as they say, right?
That's correct.
Whether or not we believe it's likely they'll, are going to prevail, under the circumstances they prevail in the grievance, how will that affect the contract if we've already awarded it and if we've already started working?
The arbitration should not affect this contract. We can add language in there for this specific situation. There's ways around this.
Add language to the contract?
Yes.
We could theoretically, the contractor has agreed, Allison talked to them, that we could put language in saying, if we're ordered by an arbitrator to stop the work, we can get out of the contract. But to be honest, this work will probably be close to done by the time it gets to arbitration. So, and we just don't have the staffing. And our crews don't work at these depths or with live water. They typically work, our in-house people work when the water's shut off. So there's a number of
I would tend to
issues
agree
there.
that, like with working under pressurized water and all that.
Yeah.
They probably won't win, but that's a probably or most likely.
Right.
Not a definite.
So if the
Can we
council
get
would
that in
like
writing?
us, yes, we could get that in writing. And so we
if we
can,
approve this tomorrow, can we approve it by putting on the record that that's once, we're approving it as a council, once that language is added?
yeah, we can amend it on the floor. It'll just require us to get it changed, to get a copy to all of you in advance so you understand what it is. Lauren and I can call through Allison to make sure everybody understands that, and then amend it on the floor and pass that amendment on the floor.
So you'll be, emailing us the change before tomorrow?
Yeah. Allison, what do you think is the best, for timing purposes with the contractor?
Yeah, I mean, he's verbally agreed to it, so I just need to work with legal on exactly what the language would be. Our contract already allows for termination for other reasons, but we would just need to specifically add this reason to the existing, to the contract that will be executed then upon approval.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
I came to the meeting for this particular, contract. Because when Allison called me, she had said something that there was a grievance against this. So when I came here tonight, my concern was to avoid this in the future. Maybe we should go to the union and take, this is what this is, and give them a heads up so we can avoid a grievance and explain what's going on. And
They're aware. We went through the whole grievance process. It made it all the way to my office, so they're aware of the reasons why.
before the grievance, I'm saying to avoid it in the future. To go to them and say, this is what we have to do with this particular one, so they wouldn't file a grievance. That was give them a heads up and work with them rather than.
We're committed to working with them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's my suggestion. That was why I was here to speak for that.
Yeah. No, it's a good point.
Okay, that was it. And that's not only with the 440, but it's with any union like that. If there's something else that we have to do outside, go to them, talk to them, explain to them, and,
That's the only way to do it, so
And
everyone can
compromise.
hear it coming from us and understand
Yeah,
what's happening,
and
yeah.
compromise, so you won't get hit with this, and why didn't you guys come to
I
us?
100% agree with
That's
you.
all I'm saying.
Mayor,
To prevent
and
this
to
in
be
the
fair,
future.
the councilman did come to our committee meeting, and other than staff and the committee members, she was the only one there. So the public doesn't know what happened there. Allison did take ownership. She did say she made some assumptions, and that, she didn't communicate as well as she would have liked, because she made some assumptions that she thought were obvious of why they couldn't do it. And she agreed. She said, in the future, I'll make sure not to make those assumptions, because you can never, what happens when you assume, we say to each other. So she did take ownership of it at the meeting. I will give her the credit for that. And she wants to not have that happen again.
Yeah, same.
And I thank the Councilwoman Quillman for bringing it. I wasn't even aware of all this until the committee meeting tonight, so thank you for bringing it up.
You're welcome.
Oh,
Just wanna
totally.
avoid it
Allison's
for the future.
great, and I 100% agree. I think we all agree with you. It's not a problem. Any other questions on that one? Okay. Council Memo 16825, award of contract for the Fairmont Water and Sewer Extension Project to Steve Speece Construction, Inc. in the amount of $2,055,015.08, and amendment number 1 to the professional services agreement for the engineering design services for Fairmont Water Sewer Extension Project to V3 companies in the amount of $150,000. So this is being funded by ARPA dollars coming from the county. Allison, is there anything else you'd like to add to this one?
Nope, this is a good use of the county's, money they're giving to us, so it's no cost to the city, and we can definitely help out the Fairmont neighborhood.
Thank you. Council Memo 16925, purchase and uplift of 22 Ford 2025 Ford Explorer Pursuit Interceptor vehicles in an amount not to exceed $1,428,002.70. These are vehicles that will go to the police department to replace, finish replacement of old Crown Vics. So get our police officers some new vehicles. Moving towards ordinances and resolutions. Council Memo 17125, ordinance amending Chapter 4, Article 2, Section 4-15, ordinance of the City of Joliet Code of Ordinances. This is coming from Mayor Darcy, the Liquor Commissioner, and it would add one new license category that would allow the retail sale of alcoholic liquor for consumption within the licensed premises. The Class N license shall permit retail sales of alcoholic liquor for consumption by art studios, do-it-yourself, craft-themed businesses. So it's a new class of license. Are there any questions on that? I think.
Well, Mayor, may I? Or did you have anything to say?
Oh, go ahead.
I thank the mayor. He was very collaborative with me, because the very first application is my district, Theodore Street. And, it was new to me. I'm not that much of an artsy guy, but I found out that this is a growing trend, interest. There's even a company that I did a little bit of research called Painting and Pinot out of Louisiana, which has a local one, I'm sure, for sure, that's up in Naperville. So this is a very restrictive. It was a very collaborative effort. The mayor called me, thank you, and then worked with staff, the legal staff. It's very restrictive. It's set up just for a place like painting and Pinot or this ceramics thing. 10 in the morning is the earliest. 11 o'clock is the latest. There's a restriction of 2 drinks, I believe it is, per visit, per person. Only 10% of their total gross revenue can come from, it's very, very focused. And I think that Joliet should certainly encourage this as new economic development, because this seems to be a really hot and growing trend, not just in this area, but around the country. So, as the test district, I'm 100% behind this, and I want to thank staff for putting together this new, Todd, this new liquor license is perfect. It's perfect. It really focuses on what we're trying to accomplish. So thank you all.
Thank you.
Mayor? So, Councilman,
Yes, sir.
what beverages am I gonna be able to drink when I'm at the ceramic shop?
I believe it's wine and beer.
Really? I'm a whiskey drinker.
Well, then you're gonna have to go to some place that you're not painting. You're gonna have to paint the town.
Can I bring my own?
There you go.
Take your statue to the bar, Pat. Paint over there.
Okay.
So I do have a question, Mayor. So this new license, would this apply also to, I know there's a lot of nail salons that would like to serve wine while the ladies are getting their nails done, because they did have it once out at the mall, but they had to stop it because they didn't have a license. So would that also apply to them, or just certain other places?
I believe it does apply to them, but go ahead, Oak.
A nail salon there's a nail salon in town that already has a liquor license over by the Chipotle, and they serve wine only. So the biggest thing with all of this, and what Councilman Hug talking about, the big thing is people having wine or having a drink, it's not really the drink. What we're looking for more than anything is having it licensed. Therefore, we can have an insurance, and they can go to someone and get insurance for the people leaving there. So a lot of times before that, the place you were talking about before did not have a license. There's no insurance. So there's no guarantee if someone goes in there and has 1 glass or X amount of glasses, they leave there, there's no repercussions for anything, and a lot of people can get in trouble. This way with the licenses, you go somewhere, you can not have 9 drinks, you can go. We also put in the license at the end, there's no video gaming. So nobody can come in from out of town and say, I'm gonna open up a paint place and end up never painting anything and open up a bar and put 9 video gaming machines in the back of the place. So there's ramifications for this, and we also, the big thing is that the city's safe and the people going there will be safe going forward.
Well, that's why I was just wondering, what's the difference between a ceramic place or someone getting their nails done, and that's.
There's not much, but
It's
the way
more and
it's
more,
written,
but-
right, you could have a pant place or that,
Yeah.
but yeah, we can look at it, and that's something you guys can vote on as well.
That's why my question, because there are places that are already doing that without,
Then I'd like to know, so,
I do my own nails, so I
Okay.
couldn't tell you anything.
yeah, all right.
And Mayor, also, thank you, for bringing it up. Yeah, this also restricts these types, the people that get this,
Yes.
N license. This license is restrictive enough that it explicitly excludes any attempt at getting a gaming license.
Yes, it does.
They can't. So this is, I'm really interested to see if this takes off. You know what? We have a lot of people all over our city, but we have some complainers, and I'm going to tell the complainers, I'll be very public. This is not a mattress store. This is not a pawn shop. This is something new that's got a touch of class to it that might be interesting to see, to encourage in our community.
Can I just make one comment, please? So other municipalities, they encourage and have BYOB to their different, businesses. Joliet, let me just make it clear, City of Joliet does not have BYOB. There's no such thing as BYOB. There's no way to regulate it. And so I think this license is perfect for, a fun time. Sip and paints have been popular in the South and Georgia and other places for probably more than 20 years. So I'm very excited that the City of Joliet is finally getting with this trend, and I am definitely gonna go and paint a little bit. But I did want to make it clear, City of Joliet doesn't do BYOB. There's no way to regulate that, and there's no one responsible for that. So I'm excited about this. Thank you.
May I ask one question? Go ahead, whoever.
No, I just wanted to make a comment that I know I'm at that age where I was sitting at a Mariano's having a beer one time while we were grocery shopping, so
Yeah.
it's like it's a thing, right? Like you just gotta.
Oh, wow.
And I just wanted to ask one more question. The way I read it, is it so like non-specific? As long as you're not regularly serving alcohol as your business or food as your business, any other type of business might qualify for this type of.
Yeah, we can discuss it for sure.
Anytime.
It's just, you're trying to make it where alcohol is not the source of the income.
Right.
You're having a glass of alcohol while you're painting, not you're painting, to get free alcohol. Is that
Okay.
pretty much the way it works?
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Council Memo 17225, ordinance amending Chapter 4, Article 2, Section 4-26, ordinance of the City of Joliet Code of Ordinances. So the proposed amendment will update the process used for the issuance of BG licenses, making determination on a case-by-case basis by a vote of the City Council with a recommendation for either approval or denial by the Liquor Commissioner. Any questions on that one?
I'd like to make a comment on this one. We capped these licenses at one point. One of the current owners of one of those licenses is a very minor partner, and the major partner would like to make a major investment in that facility, but wants to be the sole owner of it. And so in order to accommodate that, we have to reverse the cap and make a transfer. There's been a request on a rather large other one that wants to come into town, and I'm not sure if they meet the 10,000 gallons of diesel and the 3-acre requirement for going over our heads to the state. So we want to have the capacity to, on a case-by-case basis, review these and give opportunity for a license here and there as we see fit. But particularly the one that has the majority ownership with a very minor partner that maintains the license, we want to give them the opportunity to make this large investment. Any other comments or questions?
Okay. Moving on to Council Memo 17325, ordinance approving a special use permit to allow a staffing agency located at 1504 Essington Road, Unit 3. Resolutions, Council Memo 17525, resolution to accept and implement the 2024 Justice Assistance Grant. Council Memo 17625, resolution approving a memorandum of agreement between Heritage Corridor Convention and Visitors Bureau and the City of Joliet for site circulation and visitor experience enhancements at Route 66 Park and Broadway Street Greenway. This is just the resolution referring to the item that we talked about earlier over at that park, Route 66 Park, and where Rich and Creamy is. Council Memo 17725, resolution to reprogram community development block grant funds and submit HUD substantial amendment to program year 2024 annual action plan. Jackie Lozada is here if anyone has any questions on this item. We're reprogramming some dollars that were meant for administrative use that we didn't ever allocate to anything or use, and so now we can use them on this project.
Mayor, and these are strictly going to the Greenway improvement and the fire department.
Yep.
Those are the two items?
You're right. Yeah, the ADA accessibility project at the Broadway Street Greenway and Joliet Fire Department for all their protective equipment that they need to the tune of $7,248.61. Gloves, masks, gowns, shoe protectors, that sort of thing.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Council Memo 17825, resolution appropriating rebuild Illinois bond funds for the Advanced Traffic Management System, Phase B network switch materials purchase order in the amount of $79,430.81. This is the purchase of network switch materials that are associated with our Advanced Traffic Management System. This is just the resolution appropriating the funds for a prior item on the agenda. Council Memo 17925, resolution approving an intergovernmental agreement with the County of Will for the maintenance of traffic signals at the intersection of Renwick Road and Old Renwick Trail. So we have a third of the intersection there, and we will be paying $170.55 a month to kind of put away for maintenance on these lights, or if someone were to hit them 10 years down the road, then they have this next nest egg that was growing. So because we have a third of that intersection, we'll pay a third of the cost for any money that we save up for issues down the road with the lights. License and permit applications, Council Memo 18125, issuance of Class N liquor license at 3039 Theodore Street, Ceramic Creations.
And, Mayor, this is the business we all just discussed.
Yep.
If you won't get a chance to paint a painting, but you're still gonna go, right, Councilwoman?
Yes,
And do
definitely.
some ceramic?
Yep.
But yeah, this is the exact business that we're talking about. This is the first foray into this specialty.
Pat, will you go even though there's a certain line of beer? I mean, come on.
I gotta think real hard on this.
Can make a beer mug.
No, he can't bring his own bottle.
It's the ceramics, is that?
Just
It's the
Yeah.
ceramics.
Bottle.
Yeah.
you're
Pat,
good.
I'll buy you a flask.
Do you have to have any ceramic talent to go?
Oh,
No.
that counts me.
Absolutely not.
The owners are here. We can ask them what kind of talent that we need.
I didn't know
but-
ceramics was coming back. That was popular years
Oh, the
ago.
owners
I
are
have a
there?
whole bunch of stuff.
Who are
The owners are here, yeah.
Who's the owners?
Yeah.
You guys excited to? It's
You
over
get
by my
started
house.
now, you could get your whole manger scene done by
By my
Christmas.
house, yeah. I'll be in there.
No, I don't know about that. All right, Mayor, Council, item number 181-25 is application for issuance of the new Class N liquor license at 3039 Theodore Street, Ceramic Creations. A Class N license authorizes the sale of limited alcohol for consumption on the premise. This business is an arts and crafts store and wishes to have do-it-yourself craft making and would like to be able to limit the amount of beer to two customer. Liquor Commissioner is recommending approval of license. Item number 182-25 is an application for the issuance of a Class A liquor license at 1401 Gateway Boulevard, Hollywood Joliet Casino. A Class A license will authorize the sale of alcohol for consumption on premises and packaged liquor. This license is for the new casino that will be opening hopefully soon, June. The Liquor Commission is recommending approval of the license. Last is item number 183-25, is the application for the issuance of a Class B liquor license at 950 Collins Street, Delgado Sports Bar. A Class B license authorizes the sale of alcohol for consumption on premise. The owner wants to reopen a sports bar at this location. The previously managed the old bar under a different owner. The Liquor Commissioner is recommending approval of the license.
Did you have, yeah, question?
Yeah, I'm just curious, why does the casino, and I'm glad they're here, need a package of liquor license like a liquor store? Why not just a pour
To
license?
sell to the hotels.
Okay.
That'll be around there and stuff.
Okay.
They'll get the thing. It's a normal thing.
All right,
Harris
makes
has it too because of the hotel there and stuff like that, so.
Do they sell scotch?
I'm pretty sure they probably sell anything you'd like. I don't know how much
There you
that
go,
would
Pat.
cost there, though.
Yeah. What do
Thank
you,
you.
Chevis?
No, no scotch for me.
Is the petitioner here for memo 183, or do you know if they're here?
Okay. 183? No. 183-25? No, no one is here.
Not here. Okay, well, I think you kind of answered my question. It is under new management then?
New management, yes, new owners, yes,
Yeah.
correct, correct.
All right, yeah, that's,
If you have any questions, feel free to reach out, and we can reach out to them too. I'm
Yeah.
actually in the office all day tomorrow if you want to.
okay.
Okay.
So this location I'm very familiar with it. It's
Uh-huh.
down the street from my house.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, they're supposed to be redoing the whole place and making it really nice as their plan. so.
yeah, and I think some of the neighbors there have been wondering what's gonna happen to that building. What's,
Yeah.
Is it gonna
I
continue
just
to
talked to
sit
Jake
vacant?
Lab, and they were filing for a bunch of permits to redo a bunch of stuff in there as well, so. We could probably set up a meeting too if you wanted to.
Sure, thank you.
Okay, yeah.
That concludes all agenda items.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, Joe.
Yeah, Beth, a couple weeks ago, I brought up complaints and concerns from police officers, some citizens about the trailer parking.
Yes.
And I just want to thank you and your staff and Krista and Todd for getting back to me. And Todd, you mind just touching on it a little bit? We do have an ordinance on the books that
We do.
covers this overnight.
Yeah, we do.
Not against the landscapers or anything like that, but they're parking their their trailers overnight.
Yeah, it's
multiple
overnight.
trailers.
It contemplates if it's, a landscaper has a lawnmower, you can use your lawnmower and take it away, but you can't store a trailer there overnight. And
Yeah.
that's kind of what it contemplates, so
Yeah.
I think our ordinance takes care of it.
Yeah, so thank you
Yeah.
for getting back. Yep.
All right. Thanks.
Next is public comments. Is there anyone who would like to address the council this evening? Anyone? Okay, seeing none. I did receive a request for closed session. Is there a motion to go into closed session to to discuss personnel, collective bargaining, land acquisition, or conveyance pending or threatened litigation, after which the meeting will adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
It's been motioned and seconded to approve. Councilman Cardenas?
Aye.
Councilman Clement?
Aye.
Councilman Guerrero?
Aye.
Councilman Hug?
Aye.
Councilwoman Ibarra?
Aye.
Councilman Mudrin?
Aye.
Councilwoman Quillman?
Aye.
Councilwoman Reardon?
Aye.
Mayor Darcy?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Lauren?